What is up, friends? Welcome back to Blanco Bronco Adventures, and today we've got a problem. We are literally screwed. As you can see, we're working on a flat tire. Here's the deal. When we built this Bronco for SEMA last year, we deleted our spare tire. Hashtag cool. Not cool when you're getting flat tires like this. We're out on the trail, we're out on the road. That is gonna give us a flat tire and we don't have a spare. I'm gonna pull this out of here, and what's your bet? Do you think it's gonna leak? Comment it down below. Here we go. So here's the deal. When we built this Bronco, we had in mind that we didn't know if we were gonna love the spare tire delete. And to be honest, I love it a lot. But I don't wanna have flat tires, so I wanna have a spare tire with us. Well, what's the solution? You can't put it inside, that's where your luggage goes. We're putting it back on the Bronco, where it should be. And let me show you how we're gonna do this. We got with our friends at Hammerbuilt. We are gonna be putting a tailgate reinforcement back on the Bronco, and then also they have developed a new chase light, brake light feature. It's gonna be awesome. I'm gonna show you how we're gonna install this stuff along with some of the stock stuff that came off this Bronco. Problem is, I don't remember how it went together. So now that we've got our spare tire delete out of the way, keep your SEMA Bronco clean. I don't know. Ours wasn't that bad, I guess. It's because I washed it 10 minutes ago. Anyway, why do we need a tailgate reinforcement? Well, this is aluminum. Aluminum bends easy. That 37-inch tire, it's heavy. Let's find out how heavy. 124 pounds, 0.2. Bet you that even if we let the air out of the tire, wouldn't lose any weight. Just saying. Because that tire's so heavy, I don't want it bending my tailgate, so check this out. 10th trip across the shop, I found it. Here's the deal. Hammerbuilt offers some awesome products. This tailgate reinforcement is going to bolt on and keep that 124-pound tire from bending my tailgate. This is some quality stuff, and they've thought it through. Check this out. You've got this on your vehicle, you got your spare tire here. Where are you gonna mount your high lift jack, your Rotopax, your shovel? You're an overlander, you need a shovel. You can order an additional bracket that will bolt on here, sitting to the side of your spare tire, and you can put accessories. I'll show you more on that later. You've got to get this on there. You're gonna need a buddy for this. I've got a buddy here. Yeah, she's good looking too. You got to undo these hinge bolts, and is what's gonna happen immediately when you do that, your tailgate's moving. Sorry. If you can have somebody kind of help support stuff, and as you remove this, it makes it a little easier. But something worth noting, in the hardware kit, see the bevel on that? That's got to go in towards the Bronco, behind the plate, and your bolt goes through it, and that bevel sits in the factory hinge. Anyway, enough of me yakking. Let's get this thing on there. As soon as I get this last one out, she be moving. Is our door alignment ever going to be the same? Nope. Did you feel it move? Yep. You know, some people will take and put like cardboard under here. I opted not to do that. You just really want to make sure to scratch your paint. Oh man, our trail rated badge is going to be covered. Trail rated.
It's a Jeep thing.
It's not a Jeep, but we sure have Jeep friends. And we want to just let them know that we're cool, just like them. We can go everywhere a Jeep can go. We just do it on 3 wheels. Shut it all the way.
It's fine.
Come check it out. You have to just get these aligned. It's a big pain in the butt, but here's the deal. We did a body kit on this SEMA Bronco, and the nicest part with the fiberglass, nothing square. So I didn't have to really worry about my body lines because, well, that's just how the fiberglass lines up to everything. So the most important thing, well, the door opens, does the thing, and it closes. That's loose. You ever clean stuff up just to know it's gonna get dirty again? I do, all the time. Now, I took this all apart. Actually, I didn't, Miss Monica did. But I'm trying to figure out how it all goes back together. We got the camera in there, and slides in there like that. And then there's a bracket. Goes in like that, and then, oh, that's wrong. What? Why? Anyway, we'll be right back. Pat ourselves on the back. We figured out how it went together. There was things. Anyway, this is what your Bronco would basically look like if you didn't have to do the tailgate reinforcement and we were doing just the spare tire light. But what you need to know is there's adjustment holes in here. You can shift this left or right. The cool part with that is if you're running a stock tire on a non-Sasquatch Bronco, this will fit. If you're running a 35-inch tire on a Sasquatch Bronco, well, this will fit. If you're running 37s or a 40, this will probably fit. I don't know on a 40. I maybe just, made a fool of myself. But the fact of the matter is with this adjustment left and right, you can run basically any size of tire you want, for sure up to a 37. Anyway, enough of the tailgate reinforcement. Let's talk brake light. So here's our stock brake light. Yeah, in all its glory. Here's the issue. This is actually sitting up a little too high. You can see where these bolts, it should like drop down in here like that. The issue with this is there's no adjustment here. So when you are running a bigger tire and you can adjust it on the reinforcement, what do you do for your brake light? Well, this was one of the first things that we ended up just pitching. It's not any good, but Hammerbuilt has thought of something even better. Gives you more features than just brake and reverse light. So when I say you're getting more than just brake light and reverse light, that's the case here. These little lights are serious. These are usually found on like ambulances and law enforcement. I think they call them the quad cannon. It's a pretty legit name, right? These lights will give you brake light, reverse light, and there's a built-in chase light feature. Yeah, that's right. But the features don't stop there. On the end here, you can also mount a Baja Designs S1. They've already set you up for more accessories. I'm down with that. But here's the next biggest thing. Yeah, guess what? Remember that adjustability that I was talking about? You can run up to a 40-inch tire with how much adjustment goes into this. You can literally take and bolt it up, if I could line up the holes, that high. That's gonna allow you to run this to where whatever tire size you want, it's gonna fit. Now, disclaimer, Raptor guys, you're gonna have to spend a little bit more money to run this setup. Because of the way this is set up, you've got to have a little bit of a wheel spacer. I'm probably gonna say though, that's only with a stock rim. If you have a different offset, you probably wouldn't have to run a spacer on the rear. So, I mean, a spacer would be kind of cool if I'm being honest, because then you'd have extra lug nuts, but that's just me, overthinking. This system is truly plug and play. This little harness, and we're gonna show you, connects in with the passenger side brake light. You literally disconnect it from the Bronco, plug it into the brake light, take it from the Bronco and plug it back in. Then you run this side all through your tailgate and eventually pop it out and connect it in with the new brake light system. I mean, you can't get any easier than that. Then there's this dedicated orange wire. This is going to be your chase light feature wire. You've got to get this to some form of an auxiliary switch. In our Bronco, we have upfitter switches that we're going to be using. What you're going to do with your provided hardware, take your adjustment plate. It's going to go behind the factory spare tire mount. And with the provided hardware, you just put in 4 bolts and get it in there. And a couple things worth noting to make sure you get this on the correct way. These little holes, little rectangles, not a circle, but a rectangle. They line up. See how they're here as well? Well, Hammerbuilt has put these to where when you get it adjusted for your tire height, these will line up. Well, that's for a zip tie to go through. You can take this wire and zip tie it on the backside, so it's just not out there doing the dang thing, you know? Now, you definitely want to make sure you get your chase light and your tail light assembly on the back side of this adjustment bracket, not on the front. Naturally, you want to go towards the front side. Me and a buddy did it the same way, and then watched a video and I learned, hey, you do it this way. In fact, speaking of that, there's 2 other videos of this specific product out there. I want to give my friends a shout out. Jody, Bird Dog Off-Road, your video came in clutch because, you know, you helped me figure this part out. And Caleb, Mr. Popo Patty, they've got all the content just like we're bringing you. So if you want any more in-depth information, go check out their channel. The link will be in the description. You thought I forgot. We're gonna pull this screw out of the tire. Is it gonna leak or is it not? Well, we're about to find out in just a second. Now, so what you're going to want to do is figure out where you want it to be. How high? Well, you could measure from the center of your tire to the top, or you could just wing it. Here's the deal. The reason I took off the spare tire brake light is because I honestly think, well, less is more. With having this on there, yeah, it's functional, but in your rearview mirror, you see it. So I want this light to be as low as possible. I think we're gonna be right on the money from where we need to be. The cool part is you decide, guy, if you want it up, you know, right in the middle of your window, well, you can do that. If you want it down low, you can do that too. So I think right here's where I'm gonna be happy with it. Plus, check this out. Right in here, I wanna make sure these bolts are as far away as possible from my paint. So you can put, I think, a total of 4 bolts in this thing the way it lines up. I'm just going to choose to use the upper 2 holes on each side to then make sure I got clearance on the body. Don't be scratching the body. Then also these 3 holes here provided bump stop. Bump stop for what? Well, you can pick, depending on where you want to put this, and this will push against your tire and keep it from, you know, wiggling. You don't want any wiggle or jiggle, you know. Here's the thing. Depending on your offset of your aftermarket wheel, this may or may not reach. In our case, I'm thinking pretty confidently it's probably not going to reach. Thinking about the face of the wheel being here and with the offset we have. So if that's not going to reach, I've got an idea. And I think I can just take and get like a coupling thread on here and get a longer bolt to get it to touch the tire. I do think it's necessary, but I just have a feeling in our case may not be what we need. Now it's on to the wiring portion. And when we put this Bronco together for SEMA, I, was in a rush, but I didn't skip a few steps. I've already ran my auxiliary wire that's in the rear quarter panel into my tailgate because I knew at some point we had to have accessories on the tailgate. So I'm gonna have to do a little less wiring than most, but I'll still show you where those wires come from. Got to disconnect your little covers. Get those out of the way. Now, I've got a highway of wires in my Bronco. We've done some stuff, but guess what? SEMA rush, well, I didn't rush all that much. This wire, if you're familiar with Ford Bronco, is the accessory wire that Ford plumbs from the front of the vehicle, at the club box, all the way back here. It's basically right behind this panel. It's a white and red or white and orange wire, if I remember right. So when I had this whole Bronco disassembled for interior stuff, I hooked onto it and just brought it into the tailgate. So ultimately, with our wiring harness, the orange wire is going to connect to my blue wire. Simple, right? We need to get this panel off of here too, because we're going to be accessing the brake light. So you've got a couple little rivet plastic things in here. May the odds be ever in your favor. These things are terrible. I basically break them every time I take them out. So maybe have a couple on hand or be patient, unlike me. Yep, broken. Broken. Well, the good news is there's a couple like little 8mm here. Can't break those. Now that you've got that cover off, your little Y that's in the wire. Well, literally in here, you're gonna see the connection for your brake light. The gray portion is the factory Bronco wiring, and then it's plugging onto the black portion, which is on the brake light itself. So you're gonna wanna disconnect that, plug in the top side to the Bronco, and then the bottom side back to the brake light. Now, literally this wire, you've just gotta get out to the Hammerbuilt setup. The way we're gonna do that is, of course, route it through the tailgate, zip tie it up with my menage of wires that's already here. And then there's a shutter system on this back door, so when you shut the door, you don't have, you know, dead air pressure in the cab. We're just gonna take this guy and go to the highest up one we can, just poke it through the shutter system, plug it right in, and it's gonna be the easiest way, in my opinion, to do it. But there are a couple other ways. So this is the shutter that I'm talking about. We're just gonna poke our wire right through there, and then it's gonna come into here, and you'll have access to this plug-in. There are other things you can do. You've got this rubber grommet coming through the tailgate from the factory wire, which, speaking of the factory wire, when you unplug this from your OEM light, you're gonna wanna cover this up in some fashion. You know, tape it up, whatever you want to do, and then just find a good spot to hide it in here. You don't want to like have it dangling. That doesn't look cool. So just make sure to do that however you want. Anyway, you've got this rubber grommet. You could either take and try to snake some wires with the factory wiring. Look freaking sick. You'd never know it's there. Or, and I've done this before, I've had wires come out just to the side of it. I cut just a little hole. The only problem with doing that is, well, now you're not watertight. So you can decide if you would rather run it out through here, do it. Or if you'd rather run it through the shutter, do it. With the shutter system, you're probably just gonna have a little bit more of a chance of getting a little bit of dust and debris and stuff in the door, potentially in the cabin. Here's the deal, you drive a Bronco, they're supposed to be dirty. All right, let me show you where we're at. Things have escalated. Again, this is a full plug and play system. So the way I did this, you might not want to, but the good news is there's extra wire to do it the way Hammerbuilt recommends. So here's what I did. I actually took off all of the wiring loom that Hammerbuilt so nicely put on the wire. Ran the wires up with my main loom, taped them in places, you know, tried to keep it nice and clean, you know, organized mess. Once the cover's on, you won't see it anyway. But then I left a little bit of extra wire coming through here that we're gonna tuck back into here. And either I'm gonna get some new wiring loom to cover up all this, or I'll go get some of the felt tape and re-tape it and make it look like, oh, nobody's been here. I don't know, that's the idea anyway. Plugged in to the tail light, the little jumper, I was able to sneak way back in the back. It's really nice. When that cover goes on, you're not gonna see any of this. How did I get my wires through? Well, when you pull back this panel, there's this seal. I just pulled back the seal, notched out the back side of it, and then just pushed it on there. So that way, there's really no pressure on those wires when my door shuts. Plus, the squish is gonna be in here anyway. So now, I don't have to worry about running the wires, how it was recommended, shocking, down through here, pop this panel, jump into the toolbox, and then down through the floor, and then up into here. That's the right way to do it. But guess what? Now in the tailgate, I was able to take all my excess wire and just tie it up so nice and just keep it for a rainy day, you know. Sometimes if you see how you can change things or do it a little differently, well, just do it. I don't feel like anything I've done here, I haven't cut any wires. I don't think anything I've done here is bad. It's just the way that I thought, well, it's actually gonna be easier. Plus, I'm gonna be honest with you, we have a metric ton of stuff in this box. I didn't really want to clean it out to remove the drawer, to remove the box, to then do it the way Hammerbuilt recommends. So Hammerbuilt, if you're watching this, thanks for letting me bend the rules. Much appreciated. Now, we're gonna get it all fished through the door, plugged in, and then we're gonna hook up our wire. The orange wire from Hammerbuilt is the chase light wire for the amber lights. My blue wire is the one that I ran 6 months ago. So I'm just gonna make these two become friends, you know, just butt connector them, butt connectors for life. And then we gotta jump under the dash, connect a couple wires there, and then hit a switch, and we should have chase light action. I'm gonna get this cleaned up, put back together. I think honestly the next step is we just need to get a spare tire on here. It's what we're doing. We're putting the spare tire light on, so we need spare tire. So let's do that. And there it is. Check it out. Looks freaking good having a spare tire back on the Bronco. Also, you know, it gives me the option to put my license plate, you know, not in the hitch. Check it out. I knew without a doubt that this little bump stop just wasn't gonna do the thing. It's probably ½ inch, maybe an inch off of the tire, but hey, at least it's there. You know, trying to keep the tire from doing this. But here's the deal. I don't think it's gonna do it. It's definitely on there stout. Hammerbuilt has the stuff. We gotta wire up our chase lights. I got everything connected on the tailgate. Now, let's jump into the Bronco, do some wiring things. So in the passenger side of the Bronco, just remove your glove box, and is what you're gonna find kind of tucked up in there is the orange and white wire that runs all the way to the rear, and then there's also a brown and white wire right there. You've just got to simply connect those two, and then under the hood you find the brown and white wire that's out with your auxiliary switches, and then you decide which auxiliary switch do you want to tie to if this is the way you're doing it. I want to do auxiliary number 5. So I'm going to take my brown and white wire out under the hood and tie it to the blue and orange wire. And it's that simple. With your auxiliary switches from Ford, they make it just, it's too easy. If you don't have them, good luck. I don't know. Comment below, I'll help you. Just you ask the question. There it is. Brown and white wire hooked to the blue and orange wire. Now under the dash, just so you don't get mistaken, there is a solid white wire. Don't hook up to that one. You need white and orange. Very clearly marked. I missed it. Now that we've got it all connected, let's pull the screw out of the tire in a minute. Let's first test the new brake light system. So we should have some runner lights come on. And these things are putting out some juice. I wish it was dark in here. I could turn out the lights, but the sun's still up and I can't turn out the sun. So take my word for it, these are bright. The features these have, brake light. Yeah, pretty good. They're gonna see you stopping. Let me show you the reverse lights. I'm actually super excited to have some more reverse light action again. This is gonna take care of it. The Bronco's telling me it's not important. Those are bright. I mean, all we had was just these little guys on the tail light. Now we've got that. And also, I hooked up the light on the license plate deal too. So, you know, that's a win. Now, for the meat and potatoes, check out the chase lights. Aux number 5. Wow. Here's the deal. You're out in the desert, you're out in the icy spots, and I looked at those for about 2 seconds. You're out in the desert, you're out in the dust, vehicles might not be able to see it. You're in a snowstorm, it's a blizzard, Harry. You know, you could use these at any given point. They are for off-road use, but safety is always first. I'm impressed, and here's the deal. I didn't think this light would hide as good as it does in plain sight. The rear view mirror is on point. I can barely see. I would say maybe half of this bar. It is so bright. Let me turn these off. Now, it is worth noting, because we are tying into the taillight harness, if you have aftermarket taillights and you potentially had to forescan your Bronco to make the aftermarket taillights work, is what you might be experiencing when you hit the blinker to go right. You might have your brake lights doing the thing. And the car behind you is going to be like, what in the world? So if you have that problem, you're going to need to find somebody to re-forescan your tail lights to not do that with this. There's usually now options on the market to have little like, diode things put in place to where you don't even have to forescan. And I remember taking those out of the box and just saying, nah. So I'm going to have to do that. But normally when you hit your blinkers, this should not blink. So for now, you guys got to get off the couch. Go and create an adventure. We'll see you next time.
Bronco adventures.
I was not gonna pull this screw out. Is it gonna leak? Ah, success. Oh dear, we got another nail in the tire. Oh well. Hey, thanks for watching.